am happy to declare us live on the first ever Awesemo Odds betting show. That's actually not true. I used to do this show all the time, but we're rebranding it. It is back. Ben Rasa, first show ever. Julian Edlow with me. My man, excited to have you. I think this is going to be a fun show.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Sports are back. We were just talking about how much is going on and how hard it is to keep up with everything. And this show is going to be a great way to try and help everybody else, help ourselves keep up with everything going on, and hopefully throw out some good information.
Yeah, no, I need to help myself. I'm back for people, the hurricane. I cannot believe how much stupid damage this caused in New York. I've been without internet. I've tried to do shows unsuccessfully. I'm officially back. So we're in business today. Got some good things. We got NBA coming up next, me and Josh Engelman. But before we get to all that, obviously, we want to just talk a little about what this show is going to be, because you're going to see it in a lot of variations coming up. We got the NFL less than like a month. It's just craziness. So like you said, it's jam-packed. We've never had all these sports together, and I do think this is just a way to sort through some of it and maybe get to some lines that do hold some value.
Yeah, there's just never been this kind of overlap with NBA, MLB, NHL. We finally have a massive golf tournament going on, as you said, and you had no power for it, which I feel for you. But yeah, like you just mentioned, NFL coming up just sneaks up on me like every day. I keep forgetting about it. And I think that's going to be one of the, assuming that the NFL can get those 16 games in, which it feels like if there's any league that's going to fit in the amount of games they want to, it's going to be the almighty NFL. I think it's a really interesting year for betting futures, just because of all the uncertainty going on.
Oh, no doubt. And that's something that you and me, we had talked about this in the past couple of days, chat. We're going to start going division by division, breaking down each team, the win totals, some props, because there is some value. We always talk about having tickets before the season is a great way to get ahead of the game. And, if you watch The Daily Show with me, Lofty, and Josh, I have some egregious hot takes, particularly with the Chargers and things of that nature, Broncos season. So we'll get there. Yeah, we'll get to the AFC West in time.
Looking forward to this.
Oh, yeah. Drew Lock. We're not going to go on a Drew Lock tangent on the first show here, but I'm a big Drew Lock guy, so you will see about all that. But what I want to talk about next, like I said, we're introduced to the show, but the reason we're doing the show is because of Odd Shopper. And if you haven't checked that out, go and do it. Along the homepage, you will see the different tabs, and one of them is now called Odd Shopper. It's a tool that we've worked so hard to put out, and now it is here. You're able to shop odds, check out all the books, the best line available. And Julian, as someone who bets sports, how valuable stealing a point here or there can be.
It absolutely is. And using the Odd Shopper tool so far and writing up some articles on it daily, it's just helpful in terms of bankroll management. You can see, like you said, going through all the different books, if there's one place that's leaving a half point on the board, getting that can save you. And it's not always necessarily getting the win. It sounds dumb to say. Obviously, we make bets planning on winning them. But, if there's 4.5s on the board everywhere and you can steal a 4 somewhere and the game winds up landing on 4 and you get that push and save yourself on that. That's how you build a bankroll, getting that push instead of when everybody else that bets it at other books is losing. So there's just small little techniques that can help you be profitable. Obviously, that doesn't come into play all that much, but if you save yourself like that once a week, once a month, it adds up and it helps. And then just other things like, going through the Odd Shopper, you realize, PointsBet at different times has that promotion where every NBA spread is just even odds on both sides. So why would you even go lay -110s, -115s other places when you can go and do that? There's been some egregious ones writing up baseball. FanDuel the other day had a money line where every other book was -160 or steeper, and FanDuel was at like around -140. So just big gaps in different things or promotions or whatever that Odd Shopper is gonna help you focus on that's gonna help you with your bankroll in the long run. It might not make you money that day, but over the long run, it's going to add up.
Yeah, and there's just no reason not to do it. Like I said, if you like the team, why not get the best number out there? So that is important. In addition, there's other, we have a bet tracker. We've got a watch list where you can get some notifications about movements. We have a lot of things in there, and you're going to see a ton of content built around that. We're not going to dive in to that today per se, and we'll get into some of those advanced techniques that you talked about where, you can kind of middle, you can look for things, buyback opportunities. But let's go to the bubble. First things first. I know you're a huge NBA guy. You must be loving, I just want to ask you this just in general. Do you love the 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. just basketball all day?
Oh, yeah, especially since, the shutdown happens right when March Madness is coming on.
Oh, yeah.
And March Madness is my thing. Those first 4 days of March Madness are my 4 favorite days of the year. So when the pandemic hit, literally right on top of that, it was just like, you got to take this from us. And awful. The NBA is giving it back a little bit to us in this kind of 2-week span where it's almost like March Madness. You've got a team like the Suns that are 4-0 who are almost the Cinderella now. I still don't think they're going to have enough to get to the postseason.
I'm rooting for them.
Yeah, maybe they can. I mean, Memphis is falling apart, 0-4 in the 8th seed. Jaren Jackson goes down for the rest of the year. Portland, Damian Lillard and Nurkic, they look like they're on a mission to get that 8th seed. But maybe Phoenix can keep winning and slip into that 9 and have a play-in round with Portland. That would be tremendous. So I feel like we kind of have Cinderella teams in the bubble. It's got a March Madness feel to it. And it's also got an AAU tournament style feel to it with just no fans and one game starting after another. It's been a lot of fun to watch. It's been difficult to figure out from a betting perspective. I think we've all had some good days and some bad days. That first Friday where the overs went 6-0, everybody kind of thought after that, wow, the bubble, we're going to see 240 points in every game, and the totals got juiced up, and that just hasn't been the case. I think unders have been more profitable since that stage. So it's been weird figuring out the bubble. I don't think anybody has. If they tell you they know what they're doing, they don't. You got to kind of just figure it out day by day at this point. There's also been a 6-0 underdog day against the spread where underdogs went 5-1 outright. That was that day that the Bucks lost as 19-point favorites to the Nets in one of the biggest NBA upsets ever. So that's the type of basketball we're seeing so far in the bubble. Anything can happen. It makes it so much more interesting from a fan perspective, great from a DFS perspective, and then obviously a betting perspective. You got to look at things differently.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been so many different wrinkles, and I like that. When there's unknowns, there's areas to exploit if you have a narrative that you can get ahead of the curve in. So that's something to keep. Now, it's a little tricky with the amount of rest. We talk about these teams there, and we knew this was going to happen. Lakers have clinched, the Bucks have nothing to play for, and at times you're not going to see the full team. You brought this up right before the show. First game today, Jazz Spurs. It's up to an 8-point spread. And I actually, because I didn't have power, I looked at the spread and I thought, my first thought was, did somebody get hurt on the Jazz? Turns out they will be resting starters today, apparently.
Yeah. This one, the news came out yesterday, but there were some places that put this game on the board. I know it originally opened with the Spurs as 2.5-point underdogs at very limited places before the news hit. The news hit, it went off the board, but then some places put it back up at Spurs minus 1.5. I am kicking myself because I missed that opportunity last night. But here we are now, 8 points. Makes a lot more sense. The Spurs are right in the thick of things with the Suns, the Blazers, the Kings, the Grizzlies looking to get into that 8-9 play-in round in the West. So this is a game that they should be trying to win. And then I think the real takeaway at this point, the only thing you can do with the 8 points, I think if you want to if you're making a parlay, you can use the Spurs money line, I think, pretty safely in a parlay because they have so much motivation to win this game, and Utah could not be any more clear that they're punting this game. You've got Jordan Clarkson, whose point prop is usually around 15, 16. His point prop's at 23.5 today. So we got to look, do you want to play that? Because your initial reaction is Clarkson has to pick up the scoring load And I saw that on FanDuel, the 23.5 on Clarkson. A lot of books are even just staying away. Like, we don't even want to open anything here.
Yeah.
So when you look at Clarkson, your first takeaway is he should go for 30 in this game. No problem. But then you look at it and how these guys are resting, and you look at the Lakers last night, they sit LeBron out. Then they don't even play Anthony Davis in the fourth quarter. So are they going to punt this even further and just play those third string guys and give Clarkson, 15, 20 minutes and then say, we don't want this game anyway? And you really want to be looking for like third stringer point props that are going to be getting the majority of the minutes. So this is a game, I think player props are what we want to look for, and be careful with them. And then obviously, of course, I know on DraftKings, this game is not on the main slate. The main slate tips off at 4. But if you have slates with this game on it, or just are playing a showdown, it's obviously like a tremendous value slate.
Oh, no doubt. It's a little tricky. I tend to try not to get into games where motivation is a factor. It's very hard to get reliable news. You're going off maybe what a coach said, and they can deviate on the fly. Now, Clarkson is a guy, he's going to be in his glory. Give me 30 shots. You know him. He loves probably this situation, no doubt about it. But, the big advantage, and we're going to talk about some principles throughout these shows. Unlike DFS, if you want to play the slate, you got to play it. With betting, your biggest advantage is you don't have to bet every game. You shouldn't. So if you're unsure about a spot, the ideal thing is to pass. In a game like this with the Jazz, obviously they're punting the game, but to what extent is anyone's guess? It's a pretty easy cross off for me. It's just not a game I want to get into. There's other games where these teams are really going at it. And let's stick with the NBA here. The next game on the slate is one that I'm pretty interested in. You've got the Grizz and the Thunder, two teams that certainly will be playing. The Grizzlies are in full desperation mode, but they're also in a full free-for-all. You mentioned Jackson's down. I see this around 4. Do you like the Thunder or SGA and co in this spot, or is it another game where, although it's a good one to watch, you don't really have a position?
Yeah, so the only NBA spread that I've played on the board Friday is OKC. I got it at -3. It's obviously moving, a lot of 4s, 4.5s on the board. I think this one can get to 5 by tip-off, just because I think Memphis is such a common public fade at the moment. Because they're 0-4 in the bubble, because they're missing Jaren Jackson, they just can't seem to get it together. And OKC is right in the thick of things. The Rockets get a win last night. The Jazz now punting a game essentially from the 4 seed gives OKC and Houston great motivation to kind of get up. And I know a 4 seed does not matter as much as normal years, because normally you get that home court in a 4-5 in what should be the closest series on the board. That matters a lot. In this case, who cares if you're 4-5? You're going to be in that matchup regardless. But I think the thing here is that you don't want to come 6th, because if you come 6th, you're playing either the Nuggets, who most likely the Nuggets, who ideally, they've been resting their entire backcourt with Murray. Not resting, they're banged up, but giving relief to their entire backcourt of Jamal Murray, Will Barton, and Gary Harris. When they get to full strength in the playoffs, that's not a team that you want to play. Or if the Clippers drop a couple games, they're going to fall there. You certainly don't want to run into the Clippers in the first round, because you get that 6th seed. So I think OKC and Houston have a lot of motivation to land 4-5 and potentially play each other. And that would be a really interesting series just as a look-ahead spot, because we're coming off the season of the Westbrook-Chris Paul trade. Houston's going for it all. People think that OKC is tanking. Are they going to trade Chris Paul? And then they wind up playing in the first round in the 4-5. I think that would be a great storyline and an exciting series, but that's just kind of a little look-ahead spot. I think OKC in this game, getting back to the point, wants to win, wants to be in a 4-5 and not in that 6th seed. And Memphis just doesn't have it right now.
No, Memphis is struggling. I'm looking at the player props here and there, and someone like Ja I've gone to him in DFS, and we'll be talking about that on the next show about him there. But I see 20.5 points, shaded to the under a little. I love it because of the volume. Like, he's involved regardless now. Without Jackson, he has to carry the load for them. He's for some reason, I think this is hurting them, but he's not shy from three. He took 10 threes, not last game, but in the one before that. It's been pretty inefficient, but he's going to have the volume. So I know you like the Thunder. If I had to take a position, I would actually ride with you there. It's hard to back the Grizzlies right now. It's tough. They don't really have an identity, and they've lost a key piece. But I may look to some of the Grizzlies player props per se, just because, without Jackson, everybody else is bolstered. And obviously the books, it's not like they don't know that. Clark is, of course, boosted 13.5 right now. But Ja in particular, I think, has to go for north of 20 for them to be in this game.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And like you said, he was super aggressive last game. So getting that point prop at 19.5 feels like it's set to his average, and it's not incorporating the extra usage, the extra attempts that are left on the floor when Jackson is off. I don't have what Jackson was averaging in the bubble right in front of me, but I just remember from doing a DFS piece that he was averaging in the bubble, 3 bubble games, 36.5 DraftKings points. I know that off the top of my head. So he was very involved in what Memphis was doing. So Brandon Clark, a guy that should pick some of that up. He was obviously a bust kind of in his first game with Jackson out. But yeah, I agree with you. Shoot or shoot. It falls on Morant to kind of pick up the slack there. 12.5 for Clark. Clark isn't really a scorer. So while it feels like, you have to take advantage of this value of Jackson being out, it's just it's a pass on Clark. I agree with you there. Look to the top guys to kind of make it happen.
And just looking at Jackson, he played 3 games in the bubble, 22 shots to open, 13 and then 17. So you're talking about double-digit field goal attempts that are just gone. And you just mentioned it. Brandon Clark is not taking those. He's going to take the minutes, but the shots are going to Ja. They're going to go to Dillon Brooks. If Joval can stay on the floor, maybe he can take some of them. But truly, it's really Ja who's going to be taking a lot of those attempts. So that's.
I was just going to say, Brooks did do a lot of scoring early with Jackson out. You look at it and it's at 17.5. So it looks like Dillon Brooks' points are inflated for Jaren Jackson being out. 17.5 would not normally be the number on him, whereas Morant is at his normal number at 19.5. So the better value is going with Morant because it's just not juiced up for Jackson being out like Brooks and Clark are.
Yeah. And listen, Brooks, I think you can make a case there in the sense that he's been awful from 3, and that's his strength. He was 1 for 5, 2 for 7, 1 for 7, and 2 for 9 in the 4 games. If that normalizes a little, that will help the point total. But I'm with you. Ja, my favorite player prop on the board. A couple other games, today, like I said, we got 6 of them. Do you have anything from these later games? I mean, feel free to take it anywhere. We've got Kings Nets, Magic Sixers, Wizards Pels, Celtics Raptors. That's actually a damn good game. The Raptors look really good right now, but anything catch your eye?
Yeah, today is not as attractive as most days on the NBA board for me, I'll say. But so Kings Nets feels like a mess. We've seen the Nets play so well and play so poorly. It's a game that the Kings, I guess, need a little bit more because they want to have a shot to get into the playoffs, whereas Brooklyn is almost certainly in. The Nets just need to. I think they have a little bit of motivation to get that 7 seed so that you avoid Milwaukee in the first round. Which, I mean, Orlando is probably, they have the same motivation going up against Philly to try and get that 7 seed and stay away from Milwaukee. Which up until halftime of yesterday, people were like, is Milwaukee even good? And then they have that monster comeback over Miami and kind of show that they still have it. So Kings Nets is pretty much a stay away from me. I will say that Jared Allen and Joe Harris being questionable leaves some potential value on the player prop side. If those guys or one of them gets ruled out, that's when you kind of look to scoop something up and get some value, especially if that news breaks late. The Sixers' first game without Simmons. The Magic are banged up now without Jonathan Isaac, they looked bad without him for some reason in the first game. And then Aaron Gordon has his hamstring injury in the last game, and we'll see what he looks like today. It just, there's so many moving parts in that game. I feel like I want to see what those teams look like. So I just don't necessarily see an edge. The Sixers have been really bad. So
you really have.
I kind of lean Magic because the Orlando looked great out of the gates. They going back to March and even February, they had hit 15 overs in a row until they ran into the Raptors and got smoked. So they were one of the, they were an easy under team. They were scoring in the 90s all the time early in the season. And then they became the NBA's highest scoring offense since the All-Star break through a couple games ago, out of nowhere. So my lean would be to Orlando here because of how bad Philly's been. But again, all the moving parts, I just don't know there. Wizards, Pelicans, that's a gross game. Anything that the Wizards are involved in is kind of a gross game. The Pelicans have the motivation. And I'm not saying I'm playing this, but if you're going to make a money line parlay today,
them and the Spurs.
Yeah. The Jazz don't care. The Wizards don't care. The Spurs want to win. The Pelicans want to win so that they can try and make the playoffs. I'm just scrolling through DK Sportsbook right now. You put those together, it's minus 141. That's a little bit more than you want to lay. But if there's two teams that win today, I guess I'm the most confident in them. So that's there for you if you're a parlay guy, if you want that, if you like that. Like you said, the nightcap is clearly the best game. The Celtics and the Raptors. The Raptors have been fantastic in the bubble.
They really
the best defensive team by far. The Celtics were, I know, going into the Brooklyn game, 21 of the 22 bubble teams. They were ranked 21st on defense. So they locked in, turned it around, but it was against the Nets. So here's a real test. Let's see what the Celtics actually look like on defense. My lean here, and I'm a Celtics guy. I'm based in Boston. I covered the Celtics as a beat writer for a few years. My lean here is Raptors because they've been so much better in the bubble. I thought this might be an underplay. I was hoping it would be a little bit juiced up because of the bubble totals, and we'd get it somewhere in the mid 220s. Sitting at 218 and a half most places. So that's a pass. I know these two teams have met 3 times prior to the bubble, and the highest point total was 220. So that's there for you. But yeah, this is probably a Raptors or nothing for me. I wish it's our first show. I wish I had more hot NBA takes today, and it's kind of a boring board. So I'll say I like OKC the most with the points. And if I were to do anything else, I'll play the motivation side and parlay the Spurs and Pelicans. But do you have anything here? I feel like you're kind of in a stay away day for the NBA as well.
Yeah, nothing to. So I will say from Premium Chat, Don't Embiid My Status, friend of the show. I do like this. He said, they're out there if you can find it. Dylan Brooks to make 3 or more 3-pointers at plus 700. I actually don't mind that. Obviously, when you're getting value like that. Yeah, of course he's a dog to do that, but I wouldn't be stunned to see 7, 8, 9, 3 attempts. He has not shot well. Go ahead.
And so is 3 a win or a push?
So that's exactly what I asked him. Is it 2.5 or 4? He said at least 3 made, I believe. So if that is in fact the line where 3 is a win, and you can find that at your book, I would suggest checking that out. Because I do think that's the kind of guy who could get very hot from 3, and you're getting really good in terms of 7-1 on a bet like that is worth a sprinkle.
Yeah, I'm looking up some.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to scour the interwebs. I will say, the
game log.
I am an anti-Boston person. As a New Yorker, I went to college.
Fantastic.
I went to UMass, so I know how it goes up there. I like the Celtics in this game tonight. I have not bet it. If it goes to 3.5, if it goes to 4, certainly I will lock this in. And it's more of a macro play. I just think they are a better team. I like this. I've said this, and I'll give a hot take right now. I think the Celtics are coming out of the East. I like the Celtics. When we get into the playoffs, I'm definitely going to look to get some more position on them. Of course, the Bucks, I think, are the best team, but this Boston team has all the pieces. I think tonight is going to be a playoff mentality type game. If you're going to give me 3.5, I'll roll the dice and say in a 50-50 contest, they can keep it close or obviously win the game.
I've been. I would love the Celtics +3. Like if you told me I wasn't allowed to watch any of the bubble games, but you can bet Celtics Raptors on this Friday night and get the Celtics +125-ish on the money line. I would say give it to me. I'm just afraid of what I've seen from the Raptors so far, I guess, in the bubble, whereas the Celtics have been more inconsistent.
Let me ask you this, because this is an interesting question, because I agree with you, but do you think maybe that's over impacting these lines in a short sample, that the Raptors have looked so good that this line might have been around to pick them if both teams were kind of just average in the bubble?
Yes, I do agree with you. So look, you're right. The 3 points with the Celtics is value, I think. And the Celtics, I believe, are 2-1 against the Raptors this season prior to the bubble. So there is value there. If your value better, this is what you want to scoop up then on the Celtics. I just don't know if I can fade the Raptors because of what I've seen. I'm afraid of that.
Yep.
Looking at futures for a second, I do have the Celtics to win the East from before the bubble. So I kind of agree with the mentality you have there. The Celtics are versatile. They have, I think the three wings that they have in Hayward, Brown, and Tatum is just something unique that nobody else has. And then you throw Kemba on top of that. What I'm concerned about is the defense. How do they defend a Milwaukee, a Toronto? Are they going to be able to lock in and do that? I will say right now, if I make any other future in the entire NBA, it'll probably be adding on the Raptors to win the East. I kind of want to fade. I kind of want to fade the Bucks to a degree. And I'm just looking up conference winners right now. I'm on DraftKings, and the Bucks are -152 to win the East. So like, I feel like if you were going to give a field bet at +130, +125 would probably be the odds there. I would love to have the field, but why even do that if it's almost got to be Toronto or Boston, right? Like we're out on Philly at this point. They can't.
They're an anomaly. I don't know what to make of Philly. I'll be honest. I think they still have a good ceiling, but I'm with you. If someone in it, of course, we're talking about series in the NBA. Like, can Philly play to their ceiling and whoop a team in any game? Sure, but you got to win 4 out of 7. I think the Celtics and even the Raptors, the way they look, are more built for that type of grind. Now, would you care? Last thing, and then we can move on to baseball. But like, when you're looking at something like that, would you care if possibly the Raptors and the Celtics met in the second round, or do you want one of them to get the Bucks and then hopefully the second one to get the Bucks for 2 chances?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I'm going to say I don't really mind, because either way you're going to have to win 2 tough series. Like either way, one of those teams is the Celtics or the Raptors are going to have to knock off the Bucks.
Absolutely,
to get there. It's not like we're going to. We just saw the Bucks demolish the Heat in the second half yesterday. It's not like we're going to see the Heat or the Magic, or like nobody's going to take down the Bucks in a shocking upset. It's going to have to be the Celtics or Raptors, whether it's in the second round or the East final. So I really don't mind. I guess maybe it would be easier to take down the Bucks before you have to face each other. Like if Boston and Toronto went head to head in the second round, maybe that takes a lot out of them, and Milwaukee gets a little bit more of an edge in the East final than if you get it as a second round matchup. And then you get Celtics, Raptors in the East final, and then you've automatically won if you have both teams. So maybe a little bit more of an edge, just not to have to go against each other and get the Bucks while you're a little bit more fresh, I guess.
Yeah, and listen, we can see where the chips fall before we lock that kind of stuff. And anything else on this NBA slate, or do you want to go to the Diamond?
Not really. OKC is probably my strongest spot, and then I'll be hovering around player props all day, because we've finally been getting, when the bubble started, it's not like you're getting the rapid injury news like you usually do in the NBA, because teams are ready to go. Now we're a few games in and we're starting to get that again. LeBron rests, Westbrook out, etc. So I think that props are kind of a place that we can start looking around again.
No doubt. And I will say real quick, one of the many ways that you should get involved, get behind the paywall, sign up for Awesemo Plus. If you haven't done so, we've got weekly passes, monthly passes, annual passes, so many sharp people. And one of the things I always talk about is Slack. We have a sports betting channel, ton of people in there. we're in there. People drop things. I'm not paying attention to hockey, and a member will say, hey, take a look at this. And I'm not saying I always bet it, but at least it brings it to your attention. So it's just a lot of people talking games. So you should get in there and just test it out. Go in for a week and see what you think. Also, Chad, it's a new show. Hit the like button, because if they don't, they're going to throw me and the owl out, and then it's just going to be Julian doing a one-man show. So
we not want that.
No, we got to keep the owl intact. I need my golfers to run hot. We're going to talk a little golf in a bit, but let's go to baseball. I think every team plays, and Julian, you know this before the show, you're going to be carrying the segment. I'm not a huge baseball guy. I bet it occasionally, but not my forte. I guess I just want to ask you a couple of questions. When you have this many games, how do you do that? Do you eliminate games beforehand? Do you prioritize? How do you approach a slate this big?
You've got to be able to eliminate games quickly. So, and sometimes that can mean missing something. And the okay part about that is that you're not betting anything. The worst thing you can do is jump on too many games and overlook things because there's so many games. So the worst thing that can happen by just scrolling through the board and saying no is that you pass on a spot that maybe you would have liked, which isn't the end of the world. The last thing you want to be doing is just betting too many baseball games and exposing yourself too much. So I'll admit that with so many games, there is no perfect practice, especially with NBA going on, golf going on, so much going on, NFL coming up. It's not like it's going to take the whole day and you're going to have to ignore everything else if you want to sit down and handicap every baseball game. So you scroll through, know kind of what you like, have an idea of what's been going on, teams that you like, spots that you like. And then you're down to, 4 or 5 games that you want to look through, and then you pick 1 or 2 after doing some research. So for me, it's just scrolling through and saying no. I'm scrolling through right now, looking at spots and Giants, Dodgers, no thanks. Rockies, Mariners, no. Nationals, Orioles is a no. The Yankees are a little cheap against the Rays. This is just scrolling through, and this is a first thought. Blake Snell is on the mound for Tampa, going against Masahiro Tanaka. So the game is basically like a pick'em. I am not saying I'm betting the Yankees. I'm saying that by scrolling through, I've now put that game in my head, and I'm gonna look into and research that game, because the Yankees are a wagon this season, and anytime you can get them, we see them all the time at -250, -300. Anytime you see that price, I just want to research it and see why they're so cheap. So that's an example of just scrolling through and keeping something in mind. Another one, two really bad teams, the Tigers and the Pirates, but the Tigers have Matt Boyd going, and that game is close to a pick'em. I know Matt Boyd's been a solid pitcher over the last couple of years, so maybe I'll look into the Detroit side there. That's a game that I'll research. Probably won't play anything, but I'm going to research it. So that's kind of my suggestion, and try and make the bad things that happen to you passing on a spot because there was too much on the board, rather than betting 7 games and going 2 and 5.
That's, again, and just to reiterate that, in DFS, you don't have the luxury of doing that because the slate all connects. If you just rule out a team blindly on a DFS slate, that's going to probably come back to impact you in a bad way. With betting, you mentioned, maybe you leave a couple on the table. There'll be more games tomorrow. There's always more.
15 more.
15 more.
Don't worry about it. There will be spots to research tomorrow.
You're much, much, much better digging into games that you actually want a position on and playing a couple than saying, let me just pick a winner from all these games and do 50% as much research because I'm doing twice as many wagers. Like I said, for me, I don't bet a ton of baseball. I more looked at these teams on a macro view. The Braves are someone that before this little season started, I was pretty high on. They've already lost a key pitcher. They're on the road tonight against the Phillies, who I guess are back. They've only played a handful of games because of COVID, but That's a game that I definitely want to look into. Virtual, obviously, for people that don't know with baseball, you have a money line and then you have a run line, which is +1.5 and -1.5. So is that something that just again, in a general principle, if you mentioned a team like the Yankees, say they're -250 in a game, will you look particularly if they're on the road at that run line and lay the 1.5 for much better odds, or are you more just give me the winners?
Yeah. So first of all, the home road thing with the 1.5 does make a difference, because when you're at home, obviously you're batting last, and if the Yankees are gonna, demolish a bad team and they wind up only being up one, you don't get that ninth inning. So there is a difference. You do want to do it on the road. For me, the only time I bet the 1.5 run lines is really strong spots, like Garrett Cole going up against a scrub on the Orioles. The Astros having, and he's hurt right now, but like Justin Verlander against the Mariners' fifth pitcher. Like, that's when I look at the run line, and it's still going to be in those spots like -130, -135. But it's just such a mismatch that you think the bats have such a high ceiling and the pitchers going against such a poor lineup that you can manage it. So I don't like run lines. I prefer the money lines, obviously, but they have to be really strong spots. What I will say is that's why I love first 5 inning bets so much.
Okay.
So not only does it shorten the game so that you're focused on a tighter window when you have those good pitchers going, it also eliminates some of your research, because you don't have to look up bullpens. When you look up bullpens, it's all right, where does this team's bullpen rank? But that's not the end of it. It's has that team's closer pitched 2 days in a row and they're probably going to be off the next day. Like, bullpens get so messy to research and make a huge difference in the game in the most important innings. That if you don't research it, you're not making a bet seeing the full picture, seeing clearly, which is not something you want to do. So first 5 innings, I think, simplifies that a little bit, locks in more of, okay, it's this pitcher versus this pitcher, which is what people think they're betting on when they bet full games and forget about the bullpen. 5 innings actually condenses it. You focus on that. And the run lines in that are a half a run. So you just need your team to be up a run after 5 innings and you'll win, which I think is more manageable. So to give an example, yesterday I bet the Twins first 5 innings against the Pirates. The Twins were in Pittsburgh with Kenta Maeda on the mound, who's been pitching really well. Bet the Twins at -125 first 5 innings. They went up 3-0. It got tied 3-3, and I thought I was going to lose it. And they wound up being up 5-3 after 5 innings. So that ticket cashed. And then what happens? The Pirates walk off for the win in the 9th inning at home, and the Twins lose the game. So, and the Twins have one of the better bullpens in baseball that just didn't pitch well. So for me, I think that keying in on the first 5 innings makes a lot of sense.
No doubt. And listen, again, no matter what you're doing, I'm going to speak quickly about OddsShopper again. Yep. First 5, we'll get up there, but just in general, these lines, depending on where you're betting them, are going to vary. And when we're talking about straight money lines, you see it even more. Like, I would, like any normal person, I'd rather lay -125 than -135. You think, if for a $100 bet, that's only $10. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, but if you have 1,000 of those bets a year, think how much money you just saved on all those losers. So it's something that's going to add up quickly. And in baseball, you're really going to see that value immediately because you're betting, money lines. You're not betting spreads, where a lot of times you're stealing a little juice here and there, but most of the time you're stealing more of a half a point, which is very valuable in itself. But different situation. Last thing I wanted to ask you about baseball. Do you, because I know I see you on Twitter, follow us both on Twitter, obviously, that's a key of the show. Please. But you hit a lot of props in the NBA. Are you a guy who looks at like strikeout props, total bases, things of that nature, or do you stick more to hoops with props?
Yeah, it's really basketball with props for me, because in baseball, there's just no extra volume. The only time I'll play an MLB prop is if a guy just absolutely smashes a pitcher, and I think they're in a good spot. It's pretty much the same thing as playing him in your DFS lineup. You're just simplifying it, taking out the rest of the lineup and betting on that one guy to have a good game as a hitter. That's all I'll do, because there's no, if Anthony Rendon is scratched, Mike Trout's usage doesn't go up. He's going to get the same amount of at bats. So like, it doesn't change anything. Whereas last night, Westbrook goes out. I found Harden's point prop at 34. And 34 is kind of his normal number. That's what it comes out at. Sometimes even 35. So I thought there was even a little value there. But with Westbrook out of the lineup, Harden averages 39.2 points per game. What did he have last night? 39. So there's a direct correlation between Westbrook being out and Harden having to do more heavy lifting that gives you an edge. Whereas in baseball, I just can't find that edge. Everything is always a fair prop. I'm a pretty like cheap. I only bet player props in like a cheap way in the NBA. Like it's not if, I think this guy has a good matchup. I don't know. It can go either way. It's only if I find a number because guys are out and I'm like, this guy has to play a lot more.
Yeah, it's a domino effect. Like, you're getting in before they kind of like re-optimize the point totals. And that can be really effective. You have to be diligent to the news. And also, again, if you look, sometimes the numbers tell the story. Like if you can see on OddsShopper, we have 5 books listed for this point total. 4 of them are the same and 1 is 3 points behind. Clearly, they're the outlier. They haven't updated for news. You want to go there. You want to hit that on the obvious value side. So I'm with you. We got about a little more than 5 minutes left here. I know you're not a big golf guy, but I'm going to drag you through it. We're going to the links. PGA Championship from Harding Park in San Francisco. We only have 1 round in the books. So, I mean, I can ask you, obviously, I know you don't bet a ton of golf, but just in general, are you a guy that, do you like live betting in sports? Basketball, you see a team go down, baseball, a couple runs down. Do you hit live betting, or you kind of set it and forget it?
So I've tried to slow down live betting a little bit because I was doing a lot of it before the NBA shut down. And I think it's better, like we've talked about all show, to pick your spots a little bit more. The last thing you want to do, the worst thing is chasing something. Like I played an over yesterday, the Suns and Pacers at 229. And it lost. It was a bad bet. You could tell out of the gate that the teams were slow. The live total after a quarter was like 217. So it's like,
double down.
Look at that number, double down. And the game ended on like 213. So staying away, even when you're like, oh my God, it's 12 points lower now, can help. That said, I like betting in basketball in the right spots. Look at the Bucks yesterday, down $1 million. They come back and win. Betting on good teams, betting on the line to kind of flip back to where it was, has its ups and downs. But here's what I want to ask you, because golf is a completely different animal. I open up the live betting on golf. Guys, there's 10 guys within 3 strokes of each other. There's 10 guys that are all like plus 600 to plus 1200. I have no idea how to live bet golf. And I want to ask you what your strategy is to do that.
So there's a couple things. I think one of the most important is actually on a day like today. So in golf, for people that aren't familiar, when you go out on Thursday, you either play in the morning or the afternoon. Then on Friday, it's reversed. So if you played in the afternoon Thursday, you play in the morning Friday and vice versa. Typically, and what we saw yesterday, the afternoon played much harder. It's windier. It was about a stroke difference, a little less. So that means that the guys who played in that today probably catch the break. They play early. And I think that's where you can look for live betting to possibly exploit. Some of those guys that shot around even par in the afternoon, they're not anywhere on the leaderboard, but they can go out today and shoot a good round and their number is going to plummet. So I'm just going to throw a couple out there. I'm not saying these guys are going to win the tournament, but like someone like Hideki, he shot even par yesterday in the afternoon. He goes out early today. He's 5 strokes off the lead, but if he fires a good round, he'll be in the clubhouse before the guys tee off later. If it plays very hard in the afternoon, the scores can really get crowded, and that's where you steal the value. So stuff like that, and then just looking at how a guy played. Maybe he had a cold putter. He hit it really well, just couldn't make the putts. Similar to, Julian, like in the NBA, if you're watching a game and you see a guy, this team, they're getting the looks they want, wide open threes, and they're not hitting them. To me, that's different than if they're getting shot clock violations, they're stifled on defense. You can kind of see when maybe they're getting what they want and the ball just isn't bouncing their way.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. I like the way you put that. So, really, to me, what I take away from that is it's not seeing a guy, have a birdie and being like, oh, they're going to get hot and betting them. It's looking at the entire board and seeing, did a guy leave anything out on the course, or looking at the, how that tournament is set up just time wise and saying this guy has a larger opportunity. Really just, it's like having more game left. It's like betting on a team that has more game left than the other team. And where they sit right now, they have a larger opportunity than some of the guys in front of them to make up ground here. And that gives them a little bit of value.
Yeah, I kind of look at it almost like a stock. I'm not a big stock guy, but like, all right, if you played in the tough conditions, it's kind of a buy low spot. Like it's going to get easier for you. You're going to have your opportunity. It doesn't mean you're going to play good, but you're going to have your chance today. If you haven't made any putts, but you're striking it, you're going to have some more opportunities to make these putts. Just like with the NBA, if you're getting wide open looks, you're going to get more of them if your offense is really effective. And if it normalizes, that's where the buy low comes in. So you don't want to go crazy. It's just like what you said. You have to tone it down because you start saying, oh, this guy, he's been cold putting. This guy's in the morning. And then you have 15 guys on your card. That's a quick way for a disaster, but sift through it, try to find a couple. Check out our articles, of course, for Showdown and things of that nature. We'll have some guys that catch your eye here and there, but that's how I approach live betting. You're gonna be stuck with a little golf segment here and there on this show going forward.
Let's do it. I want to learn. I want to learn some things. That's why we're here.
Golf sweats are amazing. Like late Sunday absurdness when you're holding a good ticket, because you can get some big odds on these guys. I mean, you're talking, north. Not that it's easy to hit them, but it's hard to get that in the NBA. Like, yeah, you can bet the Wizards to win the NBA Finals at giant odds, and you're going to lose. Like, it doesn't work like that in those type of sports.
It's totally different, and I do appreciate the massive odds on the board in golf, which I've never hit because I don't know enough to be able to bet. I don't bet them either. It's not like I've been throwing guys out there. I just don't know how to do it. So the purpose of this show is for people to come in and learn things, and that's one thing that hopefully I'll learn from you, and maybe I'll be able to hit something on the way here.
Oh, that's the plan. And that's what our plan for the show is. We're going to have some fun with it, chat. We appreciate you guys stopping in. Charlie, we see you. Appreciate the kind words. And that's what we want. If there is something on the show, if you say, hey, I'm a big MMA guy, like, can you take a look at the slate? We'll be happy to. We're not experts on that. But if there's something coming up, a different event, we will find someone too. We're going to bring on some guests that know some of these sports that we don't cover. And that's what we're about. We're going to bring on tools from the Odd Shopper, get those in here, guests, anything else. And we're going to make it interactive. We're going to have some fun giveaways, chat, going forward. We are just getting started, but I got another show coming on deck. Me and Josh Engelman, NBA DFS coming up. Julian, A, good first show, but B, any final thoughts for the viewers?
The final thoughts for the viewers are to, keep tuning in, and hopefully we get this rolling a little bit more in terms of getting futures going and being able to interact and help you guys answer your questions about what you want to bet and give you a little bit of an edge there. So communicate with us. It's supposed to be open. We want to hear from you guys and help you get better at what you want to bet on, or get better at passing on something that you wanted to bet on that maybe you shouldn't be, like we talked about a lot today. So just sharpening up, getting the best odds, which Odd Shopper we're going to keep pushing because that can save you money because you're going to lose bets along the way. Save money doing that. No doubt about it. And like I said,
of course, when you bet sports, you want to make money, but you also want to have fun with it. And that's what this show is going to be about too. We're going to have a good time. It's a great time of the year in the sports world, despite everything going on. So on that note, hit the like button on your way out. But I'm happy to say we'll be back same time, same place next Friday with a whole nother slate of games. Good luck, everyone. I'll see you all in about 10 minutes.